All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the third video. Today, I'm just going to briefly be going over contract templates. Contract templates are basically the driving force behind Daml. So almost everything you're doing in Daml is you're defining a template that's later going to be instantiated into a smart contract. So you can kind of think of it like, you define your class in a objective-oriented programming language, and then you instantiate it later with all the data you need, and then you can actually use it. So that's kind of how templates relate to contracts in Daml and when used on ledgers that support Daml. So templates are generally pretty simple too. They start off with a template declaration, and they're given a name. And then we have these two keywords here, with and where. In the case of with, it's basically saying these are the arguments we're going to instantiate our template with. All of them are strongly typed. So I over here is going to be an integer. Party one is going to be a party. And you can look at my video on types a bit more to understand what those are. And yeah, so that's basically what's the data that you're going to need to initialize the template. Then the template's also going to have a where clause where you'll be able to specify certain things. Signatory is basically the parties that actually need to sign off on a contract in order for it to be instantiated. So you're basically saying these are the parties that agree to this smart contract. This isn't a smart contract in the legal sense, but this is just saying that the demo ledger won't execute unless all these parties say we can execute on this. So for example, I wouldn't be able to, as party two, I wouldn't be able to put somebody else's party one to my contract without them agreeing and being the signatory. And then a very similar related keyword is observer. Unlike a signatory, observers don't need to sign off on a contract. They, however, are the ones that are able to see the contract. So there we're just getting more control over who can and can't access the general execution and data of this contract. This is somewhat akin to having public and private and internal and other types of declarations in other languages, but the difference is that here the execution environment works very hard, depending on how the ledger supports it, to enforce all of those things, to make sure that things that are supposed to be public to certain individuals are public to them, and things that are not public to different parties are not public to them. And that's generally how the contract works. I'm going to skip over key and maintainer here, but these are basically just ways to identify the contract. The key is kind of a unique key. You can almost think of it like a primary key in SQL. And I guess I won't skip over it. The maintainer is essentially a party that's observing the contracts and making sure that all these keys stay unique, so that this way you don't get conflicting keys. And lastly, your contracts will have choices, and what choices are essentially, and I actually have a small example here in Visual Studio Code. Choices are basically saying this party can do such and such to this contract. So whatever this contract's doing right now isn't important, but what is important here is that what we're seeing on the contracts is we have a choice. We've given it a name, beer received, and a controller recipient. So here we can see that only the recipient is a controller of this choice. For example, the giver, which is the other party to this contract, wouldn't be able to do anything with this particular call. So there you're basically just saying who can do what, when, and encoding it very explicitly without having to do a lot of scaffolding around it. This is where a lot of Daml's power comes in, and where a lot of the ideas of smart contracts come in, is that you may not be able to do everything under the sun like you could in a general programming language, but the things you are able to do have very strong guarantees behind them. And that's really what Daml is trying to accomplish. But yeah, in general, that's a very brief overview of contract templates. There's obviously quite a lot more here. There's quite a lot of actual functionality you can do, but when it comes down to the structure of the contract template, that's what it is. So thank you very much for watching this video, and stay tuned for the next one.